Hello, and welcome to adding alt text and image descriptions to mini-modules. I'm Jess, and I'm going to show you how to tweak pre-existing mini-mods to make them more accessible to audiences who are blind and low vision by including alt text and image descriptions. This presentation will briefly cover why it's important to include alt text and image descriptions. Then I'll go more in depth about what alt text and image descriptions are, then when to create them, what situations to use them in, and how to go about the process of incorporating them into their respective destinations. Alt text for PowerPoint or Word, and image descriptions for Zoom or recorded videos. Then I'll review some tips for writing alt text and image descriptions that are helpful to your audience. Why are alternate text and image descriptions important to include in mini-modules? Mainly, they're necessary to accommodate students who are blind or low vision and therefore have trouble seeing the slides or images on any handouts. In web design and videos, alt text and image descriptions can also be beneficial to any student with screen issues or slow internet connections. The first way we can make these accommodations is with alt text. Alt text is text that briefly describes the image it is electronically attached to. You can add it to materials that students can access electronically, like handouts or PowerPoint files of the presentation itself. In this case, they can use their screen readers, like JAWS, Job Access with Speech, to read text out loud for them. Since images aren't text, you need to attach alt text so the screen reader has something to say about the image. Alt text is mostly used for web pages, which I don't really discuss in this video, Word docs, PowerPoints, and most PDFs that students have copies of. I say most PDFs because some PDFs consist only of scanned images and no text, or the text isn't formatted properly, which causes screen readers to run into some problems. Basically, if a student can highlight any text in a document, if they have that level of access, then alt text for any images in that document is helpful. Here's a demonstration of what alt text sounds like using the Windows narration tool.
Alt text SR demo, Word window, alt text SR demo, editing. Now, this is how a screen reader will read text in a document. Now, here is how it reads the alt text of an image in the document. Photo of jellyfish. Alt text SR demo.
What did you notice? First of all, if you can see, you will notice that the words accompanying the image are not visible on the page itself. Alt text is not a caption. Captions can be visually read. Alt text is not visually part of the document. It's like someone hidden under a stage giving line cues to an actor, but the audience can't see that person. Second of all, keep in mind that I had to enter what the alt text would say beforehand. I had to write that cue, photo of jellyfish. I could have written cartoon of a cat, and that's exactly what the screen reader would have said, even though that's not what the image is. Screen readers cannot see the image and rely completely on what the alt text that the author manually creates says.
Alt.
Based on our earlier list of the kinds of files alt text will be useful for, you will want to create alt text for images on anything that you send to students. In the case of mini-mods, this means you'll add alt text to images in handouts for sure. If you are sharing the actual file of the PowerPoint, you'll want to add alt text to images in that as well. Web pages and PDFs don't apply for mini-mods, but I'll have links for resources with more information about those at the end. At what point should you add the alt text? You can do this at any time before you share the material. You can do this as you're creating the materials, while you're editing them, or as a last step before sharing. But how do we create alt text for images? In the desktop version of PowerPoint or Word, right-click on the image and click Edit Alt Text in the context menu. In the online version, it's the same process, but the option on the menu is just alt text. You can have the Word or PowerPoint online automatically generate one for you, but it might not be accurate and might come up with extra text that you don't need. Here's an example of the whole process again. Say you're looking at this handout with text and an image. You can probably read the text and understand the image, but to a screen reader, if there's no alt text, it's pretty much a void. The image has no information that the screen reader can use or understand, so we add alt text. Since we're in Word Online and using cells to make a chart in this case, the context menu has other things to worry about. So alt text won't appear when you right-click on the image. Well, what do we do instead? You can use the ribbon at the top of the page to format the picture. Click on Picture, and alt text will be on the left side of the tab. When you click on it, the Format Picture sidebar will pop up, and you can write the alt text under Description. Now, a screen reader will say APA 7 template available through WRSA, a screenshot of the Writing, Reading, Speech Assistance website. Make sure all of the images in the document are edited in this way, and it's ready to be shared. That's it. Alt text will not help in recorded or live videos. A clue is that there's no highlightable text for the students. Instead, we have to add image descriptions, which are in-the-moment descriptions of the visuals you will have on the screen, including the text. Some people use alt text and image descriptions interchangeably. For the purposes of this video, I distinguish alt text as the short version, which you use a built-in feature to add, and image descriptions as the version that has no set feature and is instead woven through the narration or text of whatever content is being presented, whether it's on a web page or in a video. Image descriptions are part of the content instead of the background, and everyone experiences them, not just people who are using screen readers. Focusing on mini modules, use image descriptions in videos, whether they are live Zoom meetings or recorded workshops. Like alt text, you will write the descriptions for yourself before you give the presentation or record the videos. Unlike alt text, you have another step. You have to share those descriptions during that presentation or recording. It's kind of like you're the screen reader now, or like the descriptions are quotes you write on a note card before giving your speech. Write them in your script beforehand so you don't have the pressure of coming up with a description on the spot. You can include image descriptions in a video in two ways. First, as a workshop leader, you can describe the image as you go. We already do this for many slides, reading text or describing diagrams. Doing so thoroughly for all visuals is good practice. The accommodation is built in. This is especially helpful if the video isn't a live workshop and will instead be sent to students asynchronously. Remember to add notes to your script on how you want to describe the visuals. For example, let's say a slide has this map in your presentation. Check your speaker notes to see how it's described. When you see the visual can use a little more description, add it to the notes. That way you'll know what to say during your presentation. The second way of adding image descriptions is just for live workshops, which is where the co-host or some other supporting role adds the image description to the chat box. That's highlightable text, so we know that screen readers can read that text and the student will be able to understand the image. The co-host can send the messages to just students who need the image description or to the whole class for everyone's benefit. Beforehand, the workshop leader and creator might look at the script, judge what they don't talk out loud about, and add notes in the script for the co-host to add to the chat box. For courtesy and clarity, add image description or ID to the beginning, and then end image description or end ID at the end. Let's say you want to use a chat image description instead of a narrative image description for that map. When you look at the map, instead of writing what the workshop leader would say, write what the co-host would put in the chat. If the co-host has this script by them during the presentation, they can copy and paste straight from there. Or they should look at the script after it is edited and before the presentation so they can put all the image descriptions in an easily accessible place to copy and paste them from. Again, you do not need to come up with these descriptions on the fly. It's much easier to have them written beforehand and be ready to share the pre-made descriptions as the images arise in the presentation. Now that we know the circumstances, which ones require alt text and image descriptions, and how to generate those, let's talk about how to make helpful ones. This can be tricky because it's not a one-size-fits-all situation. The best way to describe an image depends on the image itself and the context you're presenting it in. For most purely decorative images, it's recommended not to really bother describing them because it doesn't further anyone's understanding of the matter at hand. Still, it can be a fine line. On the safe side, for things that are included for a reason but aren't vital to the student's understanding of the topic at hand, the description can be very brief. Alt text and textual image descriptions will be written very similarly. It can be a sentence fragment or a short sentence. Don't just write keywords. Imagine you saw something on a screen and your friend walked over after it went away and asked, "What was that a picture of?" Answer that question. For example, with these images, the alt text might say a black and white photograph of Maya Angelou, and the image description might be close-up of a gray watch. For narrative image descriptions, you can work them into the sentences in the script. For example, with these images, you might say, legendary American writer Maya Angelou, pictured to the left, said, and then say the quote, or let me show you something that can save you some time in setting up your paper, hence the picture of the watch. For more complex things like diagrams, detailed images, or anything important to someone's understanding of the subject matter, your descriptions might span several sentences. This is sometimes referred to as a long description, and it's more suitable for textual or narrative image descriptions than alt text, which is just meant to be short and sweet. For example, you can see how long this image description would be for this diagram, but the alt text might simply say, diagram labeled introduction, body, and conclusion with thesis between intro and body. That way, a student knows that this is the image that goes with the long description in the content. And now here's how the image description of the second diagram might look. A notebook page titled How I Feel About Public Speaking, with space for answering, separated into several sections. The first row has negative thoughts on the left and changed to positive thoughts on the right. The next row has physical reactions on the left and ways to react on the right. The next row has situations on the left and new mindset on the right. At the bottom is things I want to remember, all with space to write. Notice how each word from the diagram is included in the description. That's thorough enough to understand the diagram without needing to see it. Just because something's detailed doesn't mean it will have a long description, though. If you show a picture of a word cloud, would you expect your sighted students to read every word? No, so you don't have to list every word in the description. You can just call it a word cloud related to artificial intelligence or whatever the topic is. Maybe mention the colors or the shape if that's important to the audience's understanding. Always consider, what's the point of the image? Remember, for mini modules, add alt text to Word documents and PowerPoint files by using the alt text feature in Word or PowerPoint. Alt text is for files that are given to students to read by themselves. Add image descriptions to the scripts and then to the chat of live Zoom meetings or the narration of these meetings or recorded videos. Image descriptions are for content that is presented to students to watch and listen to. That should be enough to get you started including alt text and image descriptions in your mini module presentations, scripts, and handouts. For more detailed information or examples, consider these sources. Thanks.